So, hello and welcome everyone joining us today, whether you're on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast platform. Mercedes and I are here today for our conversation. And before I introduce you to Mercedes, I want to just tell you a little bit about my impression of her. And I've probably encountered Mercedes 2 or 3 times in person, and she's somebody who lights up a room. And this conversation has been planned for a long time, and I'm so happy we finally got there. But in Mercedes's words, she describes herself variously as a mental health advocate, a clown. We can talk a little bit about, your reason for putting mental health such front and center with everything you do. And before I kind of really start our conversation, I want to say to people, if you enjoy this conversation, if it resonates with you, please let other people know. You can do that by liking, sharing, subscribing, all those things. So with that, Mercedes, welcome. It's so good to have you here today.
Hello. Thank you so much. Oh, do you know what? Straight away, I think my um
Is your sound cutting out?
yes, my sound is cutting out. One moment. Hello anyway. Right off the bat and I'm that's good. We'll just keep going and we'll deal with it as we go along. That's okay. Hello anyway. Hello. Thank you for having me on, Rahini. It's really lovely to actually have a chat with you. I haven't seen you
Well,
in a while.
you've been so busy, so it's amazing that you were able to squeeze us in. So, my first question usually to my guests is, to maybe tell us a bit about a turning point or two that led you to where you are today. Because, um, you're doing now things that you weren't doing a few years ago. So please tell us about what happened and what brought you to your current life.
So, just as a little bit of background, I've always been into drama, um, and I went to university to study drama, is where I met my husband, and I, I suppose anybody who does drama, it would be a lie to say that you're not doing it because you want to end up as an actor, and you want to do that, and so there was a point where I kind of realized how scary that was. And I think I felt like I couldn't cope quite with the rejection. Like I wanted it so much, and just the idea of having 99% no's, which is what life of an actor is. And so I think but my other dream was like I always wanted to be a teacher. I always like loved that idea. So I kind of started down that road. And then it ended up just being a bit disastrous. So just for one reason and another, I really struggled. And then I moved overseas and I then, was teaching overseas for a bit, and then we started a family, and then I was a mum, and then I was sort of trying to find my way. And I've just up until the age of about 39, just was like sort of like just a jumble of nothing. It felt like just a big jumble of nothing, like my husband had worked his way up, and also I had a lot of friends who were like, by the time you get to that age you'd be like head of department, or you've worked your way, you want to be like pushing, and achieving, and I couldn't even hold a job down for like a part-time job for very long. I just really struggled with a lot of not only mental health, but just other health things that were going on for me. We were living in France at the time because my husband worked for Ubisoft. So we were moving a lot around the world. And then the real turning point for where I am now was 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 in COVID. So during lockdown, and I know everybody's got their own lockdown story to tell. The first bit of lockdown was fine, which was really weird, like the really, really intense lockdown. I had a great time, and my kids were just small enough that it was really sweet, and there was no, that I didn't feel, oh my God, they're missing out on school. and my husband was working from home, and we were having lunch together, and it was actually really nice to be in that environment. But then just at the end of that, so we were in France and my family are all in England. My mum got diagnosed with cervical cancer. So in between the lockdowns, when we had that little bit of respite to travel, I went and stayed with her, and we were all like, "Oh yeah, mum, come on," because cancer nowadays doesn't have to be like a death sentence. Like, there are so many amazing treatments. So we were all like, "We're going to fight this, and you're going to have chemo." And I felt upset, but also quite positive. And then around September, there was another sort of mini lockdown. It was it kind of, there was a couple of waves. And so I got a phone call just saying that my mum wasn't going to make it.
Oh,
And they said it's stage 3 or 4. They can't operate, and that was it. And so I went back to England, and of course my husband and my children were in France and not able to travel. You couldn't like, they couldn't travel, and I couldn't go home because of the fear that then if I popped home that I might not be able to get back. So I
mm,
just stayed in England for 3 months, and it was this horrible traumatic time of leading up to my mum's passing, which was November 5th. And it just broke me because I had all these plans of like, oh, well, eventually I'll move back to England and my mum will be this little old lady that I'll look after. And, that way that I think that a lot of people do in life is you think you've got all this time, and then somebody dies and you go, oh my God, life is so short.
mm,
Um, and I realized then that I was like, I miss home, I miss England, I miss my friends, I miss my family. I've, spent all this time overseas, and I couldn't do it anymore. So I, put my foot down, and I was ready to just go by myself. And I came back to England, and um, the only place my husband could get a job was here in Bromley, because he's quite niche. That whole catalyst of my mum passing and feeling like, oh my God, like, I'm 40 years old. What have I done? Like, what am I doing? It left me like a big hole in my life. And I had a big mental health crash, like huge, was very ill, like hospitalized and all sorts of things. And it was in that moment that, even though I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? What is my life? Even like, who am I? But for some reason, I still found the energy to go join a local drama group and be in a play. So I was like walking around like the Walking Dead, like all day, like crying and just feeling very suicidal. And then I'd go in the evening and be like, I'm in a play. And then somebody said to me, have you ever heard of drama therapy? How creative arts are like at our root, and storytelling, and it's what we live for as human beings is storytelling. And I was like, no, I just like drama. And suddenly this sort of monumentous dip, that sort of led me to discover creative health, drama therapy, art therapy. And so then I just thought, oh, I wonder if I started a drama group, but we don't perform, because I knew that for other people in my like in my crisis group were like, oh, I'd love to be on stage, but I couldn't do it now. I'm too scared, or I'm whatever. But they were like, oh, I just love to do it. But there weren't any groups that just did it for fun. Like, you always had to do a show. There has to be an end product. And I was like, what if we just got together every week and and played and just learnt about drama and had a laugh? And then 3.5 years later, I'm still here now with all these classes and different workshops and training and all sorts of stuff, but just purely on that. So yeah, so in a sad way, it took my mum passing to kind of sort of break the cycle that I was in. And I wasn't necessarily unhappy, but it just really, my entire life was sort of built in a way around that reality. And when she wasn't there anymore, and that loss, um realize it kind of made me realize how empty I felt, and I think so many people who have somebody pass would be are like, oh, then I and then I realize, if you had like a near death experience or somebody, you kind of go, wow, like life is just like sand falling through your fingers. You have to, that's what make life so amazing, is that it's so short, that we burn so brightly and we have to make the most of it. So that was that moment, and that's what led me to starting Quest. So sad but happy as well.
Well, it's amazing that that um out of adversity, how you realize things about yourself and you realize what other people also need. Because I totally, because I've been to your workshop with my son Yearley, and I just loved how diverse the people there were. And I think that's beautiful because, I'm often um, not sure that having things just for people with a certain condition or disability is a good idea because the world is mainstream, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
I think
mm,
it, it I never planned it to be that way. Like I honestly planned to have just like, and I hate using this word, normal people, but like neurotypical, able-bodied people, coming to a class. Um, I mean, I just had people with who are neurodiverse come anyway, so and I never thought about it, but actually, somewhere along the way, I suddenly noticed that there were a lot of people there, because I would always go, yeah, come in, oh, you're blind. Yeah, we'll find a way to, I've had people that with all sorts of blind, deaf, wheelchair, mute. I've got somebody who's sort of slightly selective mute in a drama class, and you go, how does that work? You go, I don't know. We just stay curious and try and make it work. And with a lot of traditional drama spaces, it's like, well, if you can't do it, you can't be in the group. That's the end. If you don't make it through audition, right? Oh, sorry, maybe you can help out backstage. Whereas I just sort of like, well, this isn't about being on stage. This is just about being here in the moment. So how do we make that work?
yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely we're a gaggle of, I would say a gaggle of nutters, but it's not quite that. I think we're just like a sort of weird com community of like-minded people, and I love that. I really love that's what we created.
It's not just about the creative output that they're going to be experiencing, but it's the friendships and the connections that they make with each other, which I felt, just from that one experience, I felt that was such an important part of it. You create that space.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's it's really important that one of the most important things about our classes is the cup of tea.
Mhm.
And it's, I remember when I was doing a show, it was like, oh, I love doing this, but that little 20 minutes where we have a cup of tea and we all chat with each other was like one of my favorite bits, because you're working and then you want to chat with people like you do at work when you find your little work buddies, or break time at school. Yes, we're all in this together, and that's kind of the icebreaker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like work or school or whatever, that's the shared experience, and then for us to tell stories in that. So having the drama there for that hour and a half gives people, they trust each other. they've built this relationship through activities, and then they kind of, you just, the conversations that sometimes come out over that cup of tea can be quite like, what, people sharing some really amazing stories because they feel safe to do
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
I think if you have a group that just meet and it's only that, it can be really heavy on this, like it could be really heavy on you, but like the drama allows us to kind of like expel these demons in a way, get rid of that, and those feelings, and have a bit of joy, and and then people really genuinely have a cup of tea and they walk out the door, and I see a genuine shift in their mood. I'm not going in to try and untangle the web, but
yeah.
just something to give people like, these are my people. And we talk about movies and films and plays as well as politics, and whatever comes up, it's open season, and we all, it's really lovely to have that space for people. Yeah, absolutely.
I want to go back to what you were saying about the 3 months that you spent in England, where you were kind of
Yeah.
sort of almost liminal space, where you and of course now you look back and it was 3 months, but I'm imagining at that time you didn't know how long it would be because we didn't know how long COVID would be a threat. You probably didn't know how long your mum was going to be around. So I can only just imagine and being away from your family. Oh, I feel. I just feel how difficult that must have been for you. So were you actually living at home with your mum?
I lived full time at my mum's house,
Yeah.
and she we made her bedroom downstairs for her, and then my other sister moved in, so the two of us were at home, but my other sister has MS, so she struggles. She's got like a physical disability.
Mm.
She couldn't have looked after my mum, and it was all the driving from where she is to my mum's. So I lived there, and it was really tough. I remember my daughter, sort of like 6 or 7, I want to say, and uh, she kept saying, when are you coming home?
Mm.
and and I'd be like, I don't know, because it was basically, well, when Nanny dies, I'll be able to come home. It was just this awful situation because we were terrified. I was terrified of like popping, whereas before I would pop home, like I'd pop over to England. It's very easy to just sort of jump on a flight. You're only an hour away, you know what I mean? And suddenly it felt like thousands of, you were thousands and thousands of miles away. And
Mm.
it was this really horrible feeling. And but I wouldn't have done it any differently because I was there for my mum 24/7, and it was exhausting. And those 3 months felt like forever, but also they went by way too quick as well.
Yes.
And we just tried to just be there for my mum each day. And, but like the what my mum gave to me as a person was um total love and kindness and giving that she was as a person. I mean, she was also a nightmare. Like, she was incredibly stubborn.
Mm.
Um, there was one night where she got stuck on her commode. So she'd got up to go to the bathroom. She got stuck. And of course, she'd fallen asleep in the chair and she was going to fall. So we couldn't get her up. Of course, we're not strong. Like, we're not, my mum was sort of quite big by the end. So I remember
Mm.
sitting on this chair. My other sister, of course, she has MS. She's got nothing. She's like no help at all, right? And we phoned an ambulance. We were like, we got to get her off this chair. We can't do it. And so I'm holding my mum up, and we rang about, oh, I don't know, 9:30, 10. But the ambulance didn't get to us till 2:30 in the morning. So
Oh.
I was stood up behind my mum, holding on to her because she was going to fall off this chair. And of course, she wasn't with it. So she kept trying to move and would just sort of flail around. So anyway, me and my sister are like holding it, and my mum was going, "You haven't called an ambulance, have you?" We were like, "No," because she was terrified that they were going to take her into hospital. And she was, because she'd been in hospital during COVID, where you could only have one visitor for 1 hour every day. You know, it was incredibly isolating and horrible. Anyway, so I'm holding on to her. 4 hours, I'm stood up, like it was like a strongman bleeding thing, and I'm holding her up. And then the ambulance man, my sister sort of shoved, the door goes, and my mum was going, and my mum was going, if that's an ambulance man, and then this guy came in and went, "Oh, hello." And he went, "What's going on here then?" And we were going, "Well, she can't get up." And they were like talking, and my mum was going, "You're not taking me to the hospital." And we were all trying to hold it together. And then the man said, "I'm going to go get my chair." And my mum went, "Well, I'm not having any of that." And then she just stood up and got herself into bed and pulled the covers on her and went, "How dare you come into my house?" And then it was just like, we was just like, "I've just been holding you for 4 hours because you couldn't get up." And out of pure spite, my mum was like, "How dare you?" And we just wept. And me and my sister, then the ambulance man came and wrapped us in blankets.
Oh,
And but like that was my mum, man. She was
oh.
so kind and lovely,
Mm.
but so stubborn as well, like absolutely stubborn to a fault. And she was just, and I feel sad. I mean, I think the saddest thing is that she never got to see what I built, or what I've gone on to do. And it feels really sad that 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 had to happen in order for this to happen, and to be kind of successful and achieve something. That, my sister actually started her own pottery business. um and she went and did some pottery classes from grief counseling, like again art therapy, and she's now become a potter, and she's just amazing. And she makes all this amazing, and my mum never saw any of that either. And it feels really sad, but also it was kind of like I don't know if it was a gift, but it was that a moment that spurred both of us on to do something and achieve something for ourselves. And um yeah, send us down different pathways.
Yes, yes. And before that, you said, you'd gone to drama school, but you had a long period of time where you were just not able to hold a job down. Was that because you kind of gave up on the idea of drama and decided to do other jobs that didn't really interest you? Talk me through what happened there. Why did you
uh
feel that you couldn't pursue the thing that you loved so much?
I think I was just really scared I wasn't good enough to be an actress to do it. Uh, and I really hate, this is that moment where it sits really uncomfortably. When you are a performer or an artist, you have to have an element of complete self-belief that
Hmm.
you are, that what you bring is enough, that you are enough, right? And that you can do it. But I think a lot of actors have this element of like that yin and yang of like, people will tell you, "Oh, you're amazing, you're so good, da, 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 da." But then you'll also have this demon where, if you're in an audience, and a lot of people say, if you have one person in the audience who isn't enjoying it, or goes, "Yeah, it was all right," you're focused completely on that.
Yeah.
And I mean, at the end of my university course, I mean, I was a bit lost anyway, but I ended up getting a first. A lot of my teachers at the end of the year were like, "Why aren't you doing the agent showcase? Why aren't you doing that?" And I was like, "Well, I did think I was, I did think I was only good." I didn't feel like anybody sort of said to me, "You're really good. Like you're one of the top ones in this year. You need to go for it." I think they just assumed that if you were doing this course, that you were like, "Well, of course I want that," like the fire burning. But as well as performers, we're very we're very ego driven people, to we need constant assurance.
Yes.
We need adulation. We need that, like, oh my God, but it can kind of get a bit lost. So lots of people have told me, oh, you're so good, but I just never believed it. And I
Mm,
think as well, as a woman, um if you're not like in that aesthetic beauty sort of place, that's also really difficult, because you think of yourself as an actor is also a physical being. A lot of the time, yes, okay, we think about our physicality, but acting really can be, especially if you want to be like in TV or film or whatever, like there's a look as well, and you're just constantly doubting yourself. So I think in terms of the acting, I just never, it was the fear of all that rejection. But I do that to myself anyway, so I don't know if it would make much difference anyway. Do you know what I mean?
it's an interesting industry where, your whole, because in success is important in lots of different industries. Most people want to be successful, but the success is never so visible as when you're actually going on stage and you're performing, and like, yeah, how many people come to view your play, or what the ratings are. It is so visible. So I hear you, much more so in other kinds of jobs where, maybe a few people know how well you've done, and, you get feedback from them. So it's not easy. And I think, like you said, rejection is such a huge part of, getting to
I
where you
think as
want to
well,
be, isn't it?
you're so young, like what, 22, 23, and you're so young still. You're going out and you've got to sell yourself, and it's really tough, man. And also it's so product driven. It's like if you tell people, oh, I want to act, they're like, oh, you want to win an Oscar, do you? And you're like, or what film you want to be famous? It's like, actually, there's a whole level of people that just perform and they're working, but they're not going to win Oscars, but they're working as an actor, they're living that dream job. But we have this pressure on society of like, um to constantly grow, like it's not enough, it's never enough. And so uh yeah, I mean, you never know, I might change direction and go for some extra work at some point. But
Yeah.
like, I stopped acting, I stopped being in plays. I think I went to Singapore and I was in like two plays. And I wasn't in, and I stopped doing it because you're so busy with teaching, and you just, I was teaching drama, and I thought
Right.
that was like, I mean, I think as well with my ADHD, and I was diagnosed bipolar as well. And so, and that was only in the last couple of years. So again, with my career journey has always been, as with a lot of ADHD people, we get a job and we give 200%, we give body and soul, right? And everyone goes, oh my God, you're amazing. And then one day you just explode like you're a ticking bomb, right?
Mm.
And I thought to myself, I'm in the same, looking back now I can see it, but at the time I was like, I hate all of this and I don't know why. But now I realize I'm in the same room doing the same day, like that 9 till 3, with break time at 11 and lunch here, like the same kids, you know, it's like a machine, like a machine that was going round. And if you've got ADHD, that will spark your joy and your interest for like maybe the first year as you go through that year. And then someone says, well, you've got to do it again. And you go, what do you mean I have to do it again? That does not spark it does not spark my joy. And then the second year I did teaching, I was just a mess, and I nearly got fired. And I kept doing really silly, impulsive stuff, like naughty things, uh, because there's a flip that switches where you're just like, I just don't want to do it. And my husband, who's very neurotypical, he's just like, no, he's like, listen, Mercedes, everyone else gets out of bed and goes to work because that's like, he's like, that's life. What do you mean you don't? And I was like, and I'd be like sobbing, I can't do this. He's like, just pull yourself together and go to work, you know. And I think that's the thing with ADHD. It's not like it's not a choice. It's just like you don't get it, it's miserable. It feels like mountainous to do the same day over and over and over again, you know, with the same people in the same room.
Because your
And
mind is craving the stimulus of something fresh and new.
yeah,
You don't get
and
that if you're doing the
you
same
don't,
thing.
no, no. And um I mean, dealing with children in itself is incredibly, what teachers do is incredible, right? But like, obviously there were little mini projects I got to do within that, but it without support, you can't, it's so difficult. And I think there are a lot of teachers out there. I mean, people honestly say about ADHD, oh, that sounds like, oh, I think I'm a bit ADHD, you know, I do this or I do that. And I'm like, yes, but when you have like really chronic ADHD, it is absolutely exhausting
Mm.
because you feel like you're too much all the time, even for yourself. Um, and then you feel like a massive failure when you go into burnout, when you've run out of that initial energy, and you don't understand your own brain chemistry, and then that triggers massive mental health issues. And you end up actually being like, well, actually, it's probably easier if I just don't work because I'm not going to get in trouble, you know, because more
Oh,
than like a lot of people with ADHD have sensitive dysphoria to being basically told off because
yeah.
we're always being told off. And they would say, why did you do? I remember once in school being in a corridor and I was Mrs. Goody Two Shoes and I went, like I just made a noise and my I got in so much trouble. My teacher said, why did you do that? And I'd be like, I don't know. And they were like, well, you have done that. And you realize that there's an impulse with ADHD where you do or say things, you have no control over it. So
Mm.
the fear that you know that any point you can get told off. So when you do get told off, you just feel so broken by it because you like there's a point of it where you've got no control over yourself. So it's not like this fun thing. Um, you know, people go, oh, that must be great. It's like a superpower. And I find that kind of quite jarring sometimes because I'm like, I just wish I could be like my husband and just have a job, just get up every day
How
and
can
be
it be a
paid to do it.
superpower? Sorry to interrupt, but in what way is it a superpower for those people who say that?
I think because they see me as somebody who's so high energy and very innovative and like, yeah, you know, yes, and lots got lots of, you know, joie de vivre, you know. And I do get that. If I meet somebody new, if I've given a new project, I will be very excited and engaged, and like bring lots of energy and momentum to things, you know. And I think people kind of see that um, you don't get those spikes when you're somebody that's neurotypical. You're not getting those spikes of energy. But sometimes it's like the iceberg. People only see the spikes. What they don't see is all the stuff that you're kind of carrying underneath.
Yes.
And then, you know, you come home and then your family have to deal with the fallout, which is what my family have to deal with. I mean, thank goodness, touch wood, like I've got medication to help me now. Um, and it has made a massive difference. Been an interesting journey. Yes, there are positives of it. Like there's, you know, there's definitely positives, but that was one of the reasons why I wanted to work for myself. Because then I thought,
Mhm.
if I get in trouble, then it's only me. Then I'm the only one telling myself off. But I really do tell myself off. But also, I can't hear the positives. I find it very hard to stop and hear positives because I, you know, I don't have somebody, a boss saying, great job. You know, sometimes I say to my husband, he goes, what do you want? I say, I want you to tell me. I want you to tell me I'm doing a great job and give me a gold star. And he's like, well, no. And then
You
he goes,
are. You are doing a great job. I tell you
it's,
that as often as I
yeah,
can.
well, I appreciate, I do, I find it hard to absorb that. I
Mm,
find it quite hard to absorb that. But yeah, so it working for yourself, it's great because it allows you to be like, no, I'm going to run my business my way. But it's been very difficult bringing a team on because
mm,
the team have to work out me. They have to work out me as a boss,
yes.
and because I'm quite reactive, you know, I don't plan things, or I change my mind, or I go, I've booked us a workshop somewhere. Everybody come out, you know, it's not very if you're not ADHD yourself, it could be very jarring for neurotypical or people who might, you know, I've got people on my team. I think most of my team are neurodiverse in some way. And we're all trying to like balance it out. But you know, it takes a little bit of everybody, I think, on a team.
Absolutely.
We need a little bit of everything, and that's where the magic happens.
Abs-
So you know, we're just trying to work that out, and that's tough. But if I don't let go, then Quest is just going to die because I will run out. Then I'm already burnt out at the minute. I'm really struggling. Um, and I'm trying to get my team on to help me. But if I don't let go and let them make mistakes or just take things and run with it, you know, it's going to die. Like it's going to die out. Like that's what I'm afraid of, that I'm just going to be like, I'm done now. Thank you, good night, and just go to bed for about 3 months. And I
mm,
will regret it, but that does happen a lot in my, well, I can only speak from my own experience.
yes.
I will give up the most amazing opportunities because it's too much for me. It's
Yeah.
too much.
Do you
Uh,
find that because I hear you, and when I see how much stuff you're doing, I'm like, wow, how does she have the energy or the time to do it? So I'm seeing the tip of the iceberg of actually what you're doing. So you're probably doing 10 times more than what's visible to people like me. So I mean, this is a great opportunity for you to put out there what it is you actually want in order to help you. Because my short very, very small experience of seeing how you work and your team. I think it's so needed, and not just people with neurodiversity, but it's people, young people in particular. I think COVID changed how young people learn to communicate. I mean,
yeah,
social media probably did that already, but they
yeah,
don't know how to just pick up the phone, have a conversation, how to interact with people in a sort of personal face-to-face setting, how to break the ice and make they've lost that. And I think what
yeah,
the kind of things you do really help bring that to life in a fun way. So
yeah,
we need you to be well.
yeah.
We need your business to thrive. So what do you need to help you?
I I think what I need, I think the biggest thing I need is a business manager. Um, and it's been really difficult trying to find funds to be able to bring somebody on, even if it was, I just need like 1 day a week for somebody to come on and that they deal with like the invoices and the organization and maybe big picture like long-term planning or finance stuff, because I'm just like, oh, money, now there's no money. You know, now we have some money. You know, it's very like in the moment, it's very reactive. And so many people have said, oh, this could be bigger. I think that's another thing as well, is that I was on this incubator program and they kept talking about growth. And so I went into this thing of like, I've got to grow, I've got to be bigger. And actually, I was like, that's really stressful. Whereas actually, I've just got to really make sure that what I've built here, like the foundations of it are strong enough. But
Yeah.
yeah, a business manager would be great, or sponsorship. like corporate sponsorship, um, for perhaps a local business or a slight sort of medium to large business to kind of see the benefits of what we're doing for the community and to kind of invest in what we're doing so that we can bring on the right people to make it thrive. Because I see Quest as something that could be franchised out because there's not a
Mm,
lot of other groups doing what we do. Some people come quite a long way. One woman like traveled 2 hours to come to a class because all the but like it isn't just the drama. It's like you said, it's like taking away the end product but giving people a space to just be creative for no reason whatsoever, but
yes.
like sparking their innovative thought, connecting with people they wouldn't normally connect with, and maybe starting something, whether it's a friendship or their own, I don't know, could be like start your own YouTube channel and you review movies, whatever it is, but it doesn't matter if one person or a million, it's just about do it for you. And
Yes.
I think that kind of thought process, I know it's out there. There are people doing sort of bits and pieces, but I think there is something here that is perhaps maybe franchisable, or there is a growth, like a natural growth, or be able to kind of go out and tell people what we do and how we do it so that they can kind of pick up those things. So I don't know, like I think definitely I hate asking for money, but money is so important. Like nothing happens without money. Um, and I don't think it's fair to ask people to volunteer all the time. I need people who are really good at their jobs.
Yeah.
Volunteers are amazing, especially if you're like with our Connections Cafe, like talking to people, making a cup of tea. Perfect. Most people can do that, but what I really need is like qualified people on my team who can grow this business. And one of those is through money, and one is through finding the right business manager who can cope with uh my style, and who is interested in what we're doing and can help grow what we I'm I'm not maniacal about how I run things. I'm very open, but yeah, it's it's a question. I'm trying to pivot a little bit. We've been asked to maybe do some workshops in schools, which which I absolutely can deliver. And it might be somewhere where we use more, like where we charge as a CIC, we can charge big money for certain workshops and use that to support our non-profit side, our community stuff, because funding is just, that's a whole other job.
Yes.
Um, and that's really tough to write bids all the time. And it's like being in the lottery, like whether you get it or not. And so I just met somebody really inspirational who runs their own CIC. I can't remember his name or the name of his CIC, but he was like, "Oh, I've never written a funding bid. And like we've been running for 10 years. I've never written one." He goes, "We just go out, we charge for our workshops. We have a freelance team, we have a core team on payroll, then everyone else is freelance, but everything we're doing is feeding back into." And I was like, this is like, and there's me, like everyone's sending me funding bids. I literally could sit all day and write funding bids. It's
I think that sometimes you're because you're so close to what you do, you don't see the true value of what you create. And I will tell you, I'm a coach and I help, people see the value in themselves so they actually don't feel embarrassed about asking for what they're worth. And I think there is genuinely a sense that you need to really value what you do enough to say to someone, this is how much it's going to cost you. And I like your idea of kind of cross subsidization, there's lots of ideas, I'm sure, and we can talk about it
yeah,
after this conversation another time. But corporate would be a good place to go, Mercedes, because a lot of corporates are doing things for their employees to help with their mental health issues and drama, painting, stuff like
yeah.
that. So that's
Well,
something that you could do.
we've also, I've just started making a workshop called Productivity Through Play, which
Hmm.
is about going in and doing some drama techniques that will help people with their sales, with talking to clients, basically faking it till you make it, that
Yes.
kind of like being in character, but also underpinning it with inclusivity and mental health techniques as well, things that they could do within their company to support each other.
Yeah.
Little creative things that they can bring in and add to their day that will just make things a little bit lighter. I mean, I would always say to anybody, if you're struggling with your mental health, go to a therapist, right? This, if you find a good therapist, especially an art therapist, right? Because without going down another long, because I know we're very strict for time, but that art cuts through all the BS of word that words create, right? If you say to somebody, how do you feel? It's like, oh, I'm all right. That's what we say. But what you
Mm.
want to say is like, tell me how you feel, what in a song. Play me a song about how you feel right now. Or what color are you today? What animal are you? Or just draw me a doodle and then show me that. If you'll be surprised at how much we communicate through non-verbal ways and artistic ways that cut right through to really how we feel. And but uh, and I think finding therapist, especially an art therapist, can really help you unlock stuff. But somebody said to me, if you're struggling with your mental health, ask yourself, when was the last time you danced? When was the
Mm.
last time you sang? When was the last time you told jokes or you laughed till you cried? you
Yeah.
know and I think when we're just these little moments that we try and do, that we try and bring, it's just a little joyful moments where people can just breathe a bit easier and feel lighter and a bit connected, and it helps maintain a better mental health. And I think we need more of that in a preventative way
Yeah.
to help everybody with their mental health, whether you're at work or at school or just out in the community. Is preventative support, and community is at the heart of all of that. Finding other people that we can all be silly with, right?
Mm.
And have fun and laugh with. Then we feel connected, like, you know, and I think that's so important. And yeah, but thank you for like talking to me about it, and for
No,
making it feel seen and heard in its little
it's been a pleasure,
space.
and I'm sure if we had more time, we'd have many more things to talk about. But I'm mindful that I want to, wrap up now because you've got another call to get to.
Yeah.
So just kind of as a finishing um thought. I mean, you've sort of expressed your wish list of what you would like to in order to maintain quest, the health of the business and continue to do what you do. In terms of you and your life, what would you say would be your definition of a fulfilled life? What does that look like for you, and what do you need to get there? Sorry, that's probably not a short answer, but but yes.
Do you know what? I think, to be quite honest, I think with this thing where we have to be, we strive to be perfect, right? We've got
Mm.
to have the nice house and the car and the thing, and and actually, do you know what? I think I'm so lucky. I've got everything that I could ask for. I've got I've got an amazing husband. I've got beautiful kids who are lovely people. We live in a nice house. You know, I'm able to work. We're able to feel safe. We have family and friends. I think, what's more fulfilling than that? But it's the thought, it's the reframing of that mindset of being grateful and just saying, I have got everything I need and I am all right, and my legs work, and I can get myself up and about and get dressed, and all these things that I think and I think we get so lost in the what could we, and you know what I mean? Like this constant need to be perfect and have everything.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're ever feel fulfilled unless we stop and really say, oh no, I've got everything that I could possibly need. And sometimes I get things I want, and that's nice, you know, but like how many of us don't have the things that we need? Um, so I don't know. I don't think I need to have anything else in my life other than um perhaps just a reframing of not being so mean to myself about
Mm.
that it's not good enough. Yeah, it's never good enough. You know, like, hey, I've got everything I need. This is awesome. And just to be happy with what I've achieved. But that's the hard bit. That's the hard bit. Um, but yeah, like I'm very, very lucky to be where I am and do what I do, and I love what I do, and I have to keep saying that to myself, and eventually it will absorb through the rest of my body. So
I'm
when
sending, yeah.
I'm in a retirement home and telling people the stories of things that I've done, they'll be like, "That woman, she's totally nuts. She's like, she's been watching too many movies, you know, whatever." But like, you know, that's my dream to be an old lady with lots of stories.
Amazing. Well, I'm sending you so much love and best wishes.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for this conversation. We will have more conversations, and Quest, I hope, will just grow and grow in exactly the way you want it to.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ro, and thank you so much for your time today. It's been really good fun.
Been a pleasure.